Hi everybody, and welcome back to part 2 of this season's Grandmaster Crash Course. If you're looking for anything related to Insight, Terminus, Scarlet Keep, or Birthplace of the Vile, then check out part 1. And as a quick refresher, I'm going to try and explain the loadouts and strategies for each of the Grandmasters in about under 4 or 5 minutes total per strike. This part 2 will have the same general loadout section from the last video right after this intro as a quick recap. So without any delay, let's just go ahead and jump into it. Starting with Grandmaster number 4, we have the Corrupted, which is historically a pretty difficult Grandmaster. For this one, you'll have Unstoppable and Overload champions, Void Solar, and Arc Shields, and Arc Burn will be your damage modifier. I'm still going to recommend Overload Autos and SMGs before Overload Scouts, and I will recommend Unstoppable Grenade Launchers. For your heavy weapon, you've got a bunch of options. Machine guns are super useful for some of the really tricky parts that flood you with ads. Rockets can be really good versus champions and the boss. Linears can help you with the boss as well. I'll personally recommend a good ad clearing machine gun, because that's what helped my group beat it this time, especially at the start of the boss fight. However, you're still free to use whatever you prefer and whatever works best for you. For those machine guns, I'm going to recommend either Thunderlord, especially because it has built-in overload and synergizes with the burn, or even Commemoration from Deepstone Crypt, or an Avalanche with Incandescent. You could still use Retrofit Escapade with a Gear Falcon Hunter if you like, but I do think that Commemoration is stronger in Grandmasters specifically after the nerf to Volatile on Retrofit Escapade. If you choose to go with rockets, I'll recommend either double hotheads or another arc rocket, and then a Gallahorn. That way, you can get Wolfpack rounds on any of the rockets as needed. For linears, you're looking to kill the boss before she teleports away using the double orb strategy. For that, Storm Chaser is probably your best option. For your special grenade launcher, I'll recommend either a wave frame or a blinding grenade launcher, preferably with either Vorpal or Disruption Break if you do use a blinding one. However, you can use whatever you'd like. As long as you're able to get Unstoppable, you should be good to go. As always, Witherhoard is still incredibly strong. For your SMG, if you choose Arc, I'll recommend the new Ikelos SMG version. Funnel Web for Void, or Unforgiven if you like your grenade builds with Void, and a Callus Mini Tool for Solar. If you choose to use Kinetic Slot SMG, go with either Osteostriga if you want good ad clear and an exotic primary, or if you want to just use the legendary, use your preference of Submission for kinetic damage or Prolonged Engagement for stasis damage. As one quick fair warning, if you do pick Osteostriga, there are a couple of parts towards the very end of this strike where the safe cover is far enough back that Osteo's projectiles can't really reach the enemies all that well, even with the maximum possible range on Osteostriga. Titans, I'm once again going to recommend running Void with your choice of super and your aspects being Bastion and Controlled Demolition, or Arc with Touch of Thunder and then either Storm or Pulse Grenades. Both of these builds will still be utilizing Heart of Inmost Light. Hunters, you've got a lot of options. For my personal setup, I used one of my favorites for Grandmasters, which is Omni Oculus with Vanishing Step and Trapper's Ambush, but Gear Falcon's Hallberg with Stylish Executioner and Vanishing Step are also very good. You could also do Star Eater Scales with Gathering Storm, or even a Silence and Squall with Star Eater Scales or Mask of Bacchus. A lot of times hunters in this strike specifically will also use a Nighthawk Golden Gun for the double orb one-phase boss strategy. I could keep going, but hunters can really get away with a build for almost any subclass here. And for Warlocks, unsurprisingly, you're going to want to run a Well of Radiance setup again. Touch of Flame in your choice of second aspect as always. And we did swap to Phoenix Protocol for our Warlock exotic here just because of how many ads we'd run into, but you can use your own preference of exotic if you'd like. For the strategy on the strike itself, you're going to want to start by clearing out and pushing up through the Scorn and the Taken. Once you reach that round platform, be careful because there are snipers, a mini-boss, and 2 champions in front of you. Kill these enemies in whatever order works best for you and move on. When you reach the elevator room, prepare 2 orbs by passing them to your teammates before you hack the terminal. Once the Scions spawn, clear them as quickly as possible so that there's nothing on the ground when the shielded elites spawn. When they spawn in, throw the orbs at them and clear them out. Then, once the Taken Corruption spawns, you'll also need to repeat killing the Scions and then the elites with 2 new orbs that you'll need to prep in the meantime. After this, you'll have some Hive Knights, an Unstoppable Ogre, and a Shrieker. We try to kill the Ogre from inside the elevator, then slowly move up and clear the Knights and Shrieker when it opens up. The next area will have 2 more Unstoppable Ogres, more Knights, and more Shriekers. Target the Ogres as soon as they come for you, then kill Knights and Shriekers until you reach the mini-boss's chambers. We held on the right side balcony during the Castaway section during the mini-bosses. We just clear ads and champions as they came at us and use the shared hunter stealth on every single time that we got teleported between realms. Once you're in the clear, kill the bosses one at a time. We chose to target the Taken boss first because if you kill the Hive boss on the outside, there are Shriekers on the inside of the Ascendant Plane that will activate after you kill the Taken one, but if you kill the Taken one first, you never have to deal with those. You can still choose to target them in whatever order you want. After both ogre bosses are dead, clear the adds and the 2 unstoppable phalanxes at the top of the stairs, then deal with the 2 unstoppable phalanxes at the middle of the stairs. You're also going to have 2 overload hobgoblins on the sides at the bottom. You do not need to kill the Vandal mini-boss here, but you can if you need to. You could also have one player do the falling section right after this if you want, and it will pull the other 2 to the bottom once they make it successfully. For the jumping part, I'm going to recommend you watch out for the acolytes here, because some of them will have the stasis guns, and that could cause you to fall if your double jump gets cancelled by the stasis somehow. Be careful with the Taken Minotaurs, and the last couple of champions and snipers before the boss, because they could hit hard if you're not ready for them. When you get to the boss arena, you have options. You can do the double orb or normal strategy. I'm going to describe the normal way, but the double orb one is really good if you don't want to deal with the Senate Plane portion of this fight, but there are plenty of people that have already made videos explaining how to do it much better than I could. First, I'm going to recommend that you set up by the rock next to the entrance for either the normal or the double orb strategy, because you'll be safe from the boss here. Once the adds spawn, wait for them to come into the middle. Once they do, use a well to stay safe and kill the scions and knights as fast as possible. Grab the orb, pass it to a teammate, then break the boss's shield and do some damage, and repeat against the new wave of adds. Having 2 wells was a huge help here, as our warlocks could just, hand off well duty to each other and we always stayed alive. Repeat this until you can damage the boss again and get her to teleport out. Once you go through the portal, just keep moving up slowly until you get to the end. Deal with the snipers and the champions as quickly as you can, and at the very, very end, try to split up. The adds and boss can easily take down multiple people if they're too close together, especially when the Taken Captains spawn, but it's much harder to get wiped here if you separate a little bit. Watch for the level geometry though, because if you get hit by the flying debris, you will almost instantly die. Use whatever you need to in order to stay alive here. Get the first orb, do some damage, clear out again. Repeat with the second orb in the middle and cook the boss. You should be done after that, and good luck, because the corrupted boss fight on the normal strategy can be pretty difficult if you're not ready for it. Moving on to our 5th Grandmaster, which is the Glassway this time around, you'll have both Overload and Barrier champions, Arc, and a couple Solar Shields, with Void Burn as your damage modifier. I'm going to once again recommend Wither Horde, even though there's no unstoppable champions. I'll recommend one player take it as an easy way to apply Weakened Clear. Not required, but at least one of the other 2 players may want to consider running a Blinding Grenade Launcher. For heavies, I'm going to have to recommend rockets once again, because as usual, a Galahorn and 2 legendary rockets matching the Void Burn is super strong. For those Void Rockets, I recommend Royal Entry, because you can get rolls like Field Prep and Clown Cartridge, but Red Herring isn't bad either if you don't have a Royal Entry. If you don't have a Void Rocket, then I'd recommend going with a Stasis one like Palmyra or Bump in the Night, as both can get Chill Clip, and Chill Clip has an interaction with Galahorn's Wolfpack rounds. For primaries, I recommend splitting between SMGs and Pulses, matching either the Arc Shields or the Void Burn, unless one player wants to run Arbalest to break anti-barrier champions, in which case you're open to upping your primary options a little bit. You could also use a kinetic slot primary with an energy slot special if you'd prefer. There you have options like Osteostriga, Prolonged Engagement, Submission again. There are also going to be a lot less solar shields than arc shields, so you can get away without needing a solar primary. If you're going to run an elemental primary, I recommend either Void to match the burn, or Arc to match the shields at the end. For the classes, we'll start with Titans again. Since it is Void Burn, I'm going to keep recommending that you use Heart of Inmost Light with Controlled Demolition and Bastion, your choice of super. Warlocks should either run well with Starfire Protocol for damage, or Stasis with Bleak Watcher and either Osmiomancy Gloves or Eye of Another World to keep higher uptime on your turrets. In this strike specifically, Stasis is much better than in the other Nightfalls we have, so if you're tired of well, go with Stasis here. It'll be really good against the Wyverns that you'll run into. Hunters, I'm also going to keep recommending the same builds to you. Night Stalkers with Omnioculus, Vanishing Step, and Trapper's Ambush, or Gear Falcons with Vanishing and Stylish Executioner. These builds are just insane right now, and I honestly have to recommend them for just about every single Grandmaster this season. You could also do a Stasis build here with Mask of Bacchus or Renewal Grasps for better defense. A Stasis Hunter is also very good against the Wyverns, but Void just has more utility here, and I think is in a stronger spot. For the strike strategy itself, I'm going to recommend that you clear until you get to the part with the first barrier servitor. I recommend killing it before the captain spawns if you can, but if you can't, just kill the champs and move up. For the Stasis Fallen, try not to get frozen, as shatter splash damage in GMs is still pretty high. It's a decent way to get wiped if you all get frozen right next to each other. Kill the Overload champ in here, then move up to spawn the barrier servitor. Kill the barrier servitor and then the boss. Kill adds whenever needed or convenient. There will be some sniper vandals that I recommend trying to take care of if you have to. Repeat for the next Stasis Fallen mini-boss, and keep moving up until you get to the section right before the Vex Fluid Lake. The snipers in this section can be kind of dangerous, so I'd say watch for them, try to pick them off, and then kill the overloads and move up. When you get to the lake, I recommend standing on the plate and try to hold it as long as you can. You'll be able to get a little bit of progress before the ads start coming towards you. Once they do, we usually drop a well of radiance so we can clear out some shanks, but as soon as that well drops, we retreat to the boxes behind us, usually using Hunter Invis to do so. We kill the shanks until snipers spawn. We always try to prioritize the heavy shanks and the sniper vandals, then later the exploding shanks and the sniper shanks. Once the lake is done draining, move up. Watch for the snipers up top, and if you have a way to pick them off, do so. This is, again, where Arbalest could come in handy because it's got some of that range. I recommend killing the Overload Captain, the Heavy Shank, and then the Barrier Servitor in this area in that order if possible, but really just whenever it's safe or convenient to do so, that's when you should try to go for them. Again, those snipers can really mess you up because a lot of times you will get hit by more than one at once, and a lot of times it can just end up in a one-shot. Otherwise, just keep clearing out enemies and moving up. Once you get to the boss room, kill the ads and the champion, finish it for ammo if needed, then go to the left side room when the two bosses appear. When this happens, you'll also have 2 Overload Minotaurs that spawn. Watch for them because they will rush the room that you're inside of. Kill them as quickly as possible. You can also freeze them if you need to just buy yourself a little time. The small Hydra boss will also come in the room, but he can be blinded and frozen and he doesn't do that much damage. He also does not deal splash damage. He'll usually just go after one player and try to kill them, and even then, he's not too good at it. If you push this Hydra out too quickly, however, more champions will spawn, and you don't want that to happen before the first 2 champions are dead. Kill the overloads, push the Hydra out, then kill the next 2 overloads that spawn. Then, you can push the big Hydra boss out by quick peeking him for chip damage, using Wither Horde, Arbalest, whatever you need to. After the big Hydra leaves, you'll have Wyverns that spawn. I recommend going to the far left side and nuking one of them with rockets on spawn. The other Wyvern will push the room that you're hiding in, and a lot of times it gets there about the time that we head back inside to get ready for it after killing the first one. Kill this Wyvern as quickly as possible because they're probably the most dangerous enemy in this strike. High damage with Void and AoE in close quarters can sometimes lead to a team wipe if you're not careful. It can definitely one-shot a player. 2 barrier hobgoblins will also spawn, but they won't really rush you, they will kind of just hang out outside. The harpies that also spawn here are relatively easy to deal with, they're not particularly tanky, and from my experience, they're not particularly aggressive either. When the small Hydra boss tries to leave again, you'll have 2 more Wyverns and barrier champs that spawn. Repeat the same strategy with the Wyverns and get ready to deal with the barriers. These champs are pretty easy to bait, and you can honestly refresh your heavy ammo here with finishers relatively risk-free. Repeat the anti-overload champ strategy again when the big Hydra comes back, and then once again after you push the big Hydra out a second time, they'll both come back, this time with Wyverns. Repeat your anti-Wyvern strategy. Just keep that up and you'll be fine. At the very, very end, you'll have the barrier hobgoblins again, but like I said, they're pretty easy to deal with. They are not very aggressive to coming into the room at all. So just keep it up and you'll be fine. Also, you don't have to kill the last 4 barrier hobgoblins if you just want the completion for your gilded seal, but I don't think you'll get platinum rewards if you do that. I can't really remember, but they're not too hard to deal with. If you don't want to spend a little more time, you can just kill the 4, get the platinum rewards, and roll with that. As our 6th and final Grandmaster this season, we have Warden of Nothing, which honestly doesn't need a whole lot of explaining. The strike is pretty simple. Warden of Nothing will have all 3 types of champions, a couple Void Shields, and Solar Burn for your damage modifier. This time we split up the Overload and Barrier champion mods, but we all used Unstoppable Grenade Launcher. On a subsequent run, however, I did use Ariana's Vow for fun, and it honestly didn't do too bad because of the Solar Burn. Ariana's Vow still has pretty good damage for the amount of ammo you can carry, so if you feel like doing, 2 of each champion type and splitting that across the fire team, Ariana's Vow is not too bad, especially because it gets the bonus from the burn here. For heavy weapons, we once again repeated the very simple rocket strategy, this time with solar rockets. Ascendancy and Hezen Vengeance both did very, very well, and as usual, the 3rd player had Galahorn to buff the other 2 players. We did still have a Wither Horde with Weakened Clear and Unstoppable Grenade Launcher, and Osteostrigo was really solid for Overload. For everything up until the room that has the Minotaur boss, the strike is really simple. Just keep moving and killing, take out champions first as needed, because they can be a little higher priority. Not too much to explain. Once you get to the room with the Minotaur boss, things get a little trickier, but not much. You're going to want to target the Hobgoblin snipers first, then move up the small stairs and get a well down, preferably on that little small wall thing right before the train tracks to start clearing out. Take out the Hydra and the 2 barrier Hobgoblins. I recommend taking the one on the right first, because then you can get a pretty free finisher on the one on the left if you want to, restock on heavy ammo. Then what we do is we take the little platform on the left where one of the Hobgoblins was and we hold there. You can use another well here or a bubble if you want. We just keep holding out till the Minotaur comes in, then we melt him as quick as we can. The rest of the ads will despawn after he dies. There's not a whole lot else that needs to be explained. Then just keep killing and moving until you reach the old Prison of Elders arena. This part's also not too bad. Just kill the champs in whatever order is best, but I'll recommend getting the Overload first here because, you know, sometimes he'll charge. The Unstoppable, probably the best one to go for after that. Then there are 3 barriers you can deal with in whatever order you like. 2 Vex Hobgoblins and 1 Cabal Colossus. Once you're done with that, get ready to do the Dismantling Mines portion. You're going to have 3 champions spawn, 1 barrier, 1 Unstoppable, and an Overload. We did the mines A, B, and C in that order. The barrier hobgoblin spawns slightly to the right of mine A if you're facing the exit. The unstoppable Incendior will spawn pretty much on top of mine B and will probably charge you while you go towards it. And then the overload minotaur spawns, I believe, near the bridge by the Scorch Cannon. We went to the back ledge near mine B when the boss spawned and killed it. And with the A, B to C route, you can also really easily get to all 3 of these champions to ensure platinum rewards. After going down the elevator, post Prison of Elders section, clear out the champions and get ready for the boss. Not a whole lot to explain here, we just baked him with rockets inside of a well and finished him off in about 7 to 10 seconds. Once you're done with that, you're done. And with that, you should be done with all your Grandmasters for the season, so, you know, congratulations on gilding the Conqueror seal. Thank you all again for watching, and if you like what I do, a like and a sub are always greatly appreciated. I've got some more damage testing videos in the works pre-Lightfall, so stay tuned for those. We're basically going to take a bunch of different exotics and a couple other weapons. We're going to try and get them all into a spreadsheet and a video similar to the primary one, but I'm thinking maybe on a slightly larger scale. And then what I'll do is, as patch notes for Lightfall with sandbox changes come out, if any of those exotics or weapon types are affected in ways that we can adjust with math, then what I'll do is I'll come back and update the values based on percentages. So like, for example, if they say bait and switch is going from a 30% damage buff to a 25%, I'll go back and tweak it down from 30% bonus to 25% bonus and try to have predicted damage values based on that testing going into Lightfall. So yeah, stay tuned. We'll have that soon. And yeah, I'll catch you guys next time. Later.